Angelo, this is Tuan, and this is Jeremy, and this is Sharon, and today we're going to present you our solution for this problem. So now, our agenda for this evening, it will be our mission, to present you our mission and our solution, and also our budget and the conclusion to what we are doing for it. And now, just to let you know, our mission is to forecast the demand for the OMEs, and by implementing more accurate purchasing for the procurement officers. So it's basically to get more information so we could better the flow of the products. And now Sharon will continue with the
Thank you, Angelo. So as we understand currently is that future electronics is experiencing a just-in-time issue with their inventory and MRP system. And the solution that we want to provide you is not a Band-Aid one, but more of a prevention measure. So currently what's happening is sometimes orders are being under-ordered or over-ordered, and the supposed solution would be, how to solve that. But what we want to bring to the table is something that would prevent that entirely. I'm just going to use my computer. Okay. Here we go. This is the distribution channel. I'm pretty sure everyone knows this very well. So we start off with an OCM at the top, so something like Freescale. We're going to a franchising distributor, Freescale Electronics, going to an OEM like RIM, for instance, and then who sells the products to consumers like UNI. What we want to do is to include the market research firm portion of that. So OEMs, so for instance RIM, usually gets their statistics from market research firms who ask either telephone surveys, online surveys from consumers, which means that market research firms hold a lot of that instrumental data for RIM to decide how to develop their next project. And what our team wants to do is to dive right in and get that same data so that we would know what OEMs are going to be developing next. So we want to basically purchase intelligence or purchase the market research data that the market research firms hold, so that we would know what projects or what products RIM would next prepare. Knowing that, then we would understand for instance, the microchips that are required, the other semiconductor products that's required for RIM's next products. And now Tuan will tell you more about this solution.
Alright, so basically what will this market research data that we acquire from them allow us to do? It basically allows us to forecast future demand for future electronics products. It allows you to determine how much inventory you're going to need. You're going to use this market research, the same research that RIM will use to determine how much inventory they're going to order from us. You're going to implement it, enter it into your current systems, have your current algorithms, which currently use only historical data to determine demand, enter it and use it, allow you to forecast future demand for your products. Knowing how much demand you have allows you to appropriately purchase the correct amount of inventory. So it really makes the job easier for procurement officers. It's no longer a guessing game based on old data, based on data that may no longer be relevant. You're taking data that these companies will be using in the future. So this is the process in which you will be implementing it. You will establish contracts with OEMs to acquire their market research, so that it's to benefit them and you. By acquiring this research, you know how much demand you'll have, how much you'll need. And again, you will enter it into your system. The system will digest all the information that is provided to it and display it in a friendly-to-use manner for procurement officers, so they know how much they need to buy, so you don't over-purchase your inventory, so you can actually limit the amount of inventory that you have to keep. And it meets the needs of the OEMs, major OEMs in which you are doing business with.
Okay, so we did our best to come up with a hypothetical budget of how much this might cost to implement. So the first cost that we are considering is the cost to actually purchase the market research from the OEMs.
So you would have to set up contracts with each individual one of your big OEMs that you sell product to, and we assume that it might cost something around $50,000 per year to gain market research for each of the 4 quarters. Now, you're going to have to increase your employees and hire more employees to actually input this data into your existing algorithms and adjust them, and that's going to take skilled labor. As well, with this adjustment of stock and inventory, you're going to have to hire more employees in your warehouses, and so we're estimating that these employment costs might range around $100,000. And with these more complex algorithms, you're going to need more complex hardware, you're going to need more computers, more technology, and so we're estimating that the hardware itself will cost about $100,000 for a total cost of $250,000. The $200,000, the second and third expenses are startup costs, and the $50,000 is the only recurring, real recurring costs other than the additional labor. So we did our best to estimate a return on investment for this investment, and we see that if you invest in this market research and you're better able to stock your inventory, then we assume that you may be able to create 1 additional sale per quarter to each OEM that you have a contract with. And assuming this, we see 1 last-minute sale as a sale of 50,000 units. So if you can generate 1 extra last-minute sale per quarter, that's an additional 200,000 units. And at $1 a unit for a smaller chip or a smaller processor, that comes out to $200,000 in additional revenue with a cost of only $50,000 per year for the market research. So that's a 300% return on investment.
And now, you guys are probably wondering, why should we do this? Why should we even consider this? Well, basically, this system that we have kind of put together, it would be profitable. It's feasible also because it's gonna allow the company to have a more control over the inventory. How would this happen? So now what we're gonna do is determine the biggest clients, and then we're gonna work with their research and development team, and also we're gonna sign the contract with OEMs and then acquire market research. So with the market research, we're gonna use the algorithmic information that we already have. We're gonna put them together, and then it's gonna allow us to have a better control of our inventory, meaning that if we will know exactly like how we'll be ready for any spontaneous occasions, for example, if RAM needs some extra chips and in just a matter of seconds. So this is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Intellectual property is one of the most valuable factors in our industry, coming from the OEMs. I understand the signing of a contract and NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and whatever with these OEMs, but intellectual property is so huge that, and I'm going to get into other factors in a second, how do we expect a company like RIM, while they're competing with Apple, while they're competing with Google, while they're competing with Samsung, while they're competing, and we all know the landscape of this industry right now and how technology is changing so quickly. How do you think we're going to be able to get this intellectual property out of these companies to a distributor to be able to support getting this kind of data for their inventory? I'm just going to add a side note real quick so that we can answer it all in one. Because the assumption is that that product is going to go to market and that product's going to be the leading edge. What I'm getting at, we all remember the beta VHS of decades ago. We would all bet our house that beta would be the leading technology based on clarity of picture, based on quality alone. Where they failed is obviously Sony patented that, put a price structure, so that's another factor here, controlling the marketing pieces product price, people. There's a lot of assumptions here to make sure that that product goes to market and it's the leading one. I see myself, if I'm signing an agreement with, I'll take an example, Research in Motion. If I was to think their product was going to go to market and I banked on everything and inventorying the product to build the BlackBerry, I'd probably be losing a lot of money right now, because chances are the volume of sales they figured might have been 1 million handheld devices, which has been severely cut by Apple, by Samsung, and by other people that our technology is moving faster and better. I know it's a long, convoluted statement, but I think you guys understand the question and statement.
Well, this is my opinion on it. But basically, by forecasting demand, you basically, in a way, you're providing a guarantee to these companies that you will have the inventory in stock when they need it. Of course, this guarantee will benefit them, because the fact is, if they miss out on an order, they're actually losing a lot of profit. So by having this, they would want to provide you with the market information, because it's almost like a two-way thing. It really benefits you and them.
So I'll guarantee you right now, Mr. Jobs, again, rest in peace, I'll have the inventory for you. But then Mr. Balsillie, I have the same signed agreement with you. Million units. Well, again, let's use today's example. Apple is far outselling Research in Motion in their BlackBerry, to the point where the stock market is crashing, to the point where Research in Motion is canceling with their distributors and their direct contracts. So who's stuck with all that inventory at the end of the day? Based on an agreement that we made on a contract. So I see a lot of, everything's great if the stars align, but I see a lot of flaws in that whole.
But I think in that situation, it really occurs whether you have the system or not. Because regardless, if they're canceling orders, you will still suffer like excess inventory. If that happens to any major company, you will ultimately, franchise distributors will suffer having large inventory in the scenario where they need that additional inventory.
Right. Like I see how the way you guys present, which is a great presentation. The stars align, inventory becomes an asset. The stars don't align. And again, I use the example of VHS and Beta, and we can use the example of the handheld devices. Stars don't align. It's not Mr. Jobs and Mr. Balsillie that are stuck with the inventory paying, even though they've made this great agreement with us. It's the distributor that gets stuck with the inventory, and it would bankrupt us.
Can I provide like in almost like a hypothetical alternative?
Sure.
Assuming that occurs, definitely one company would be benefiting. Of course, you would also be providing not just to one company, you're providing it to several other companies also. Assuming
they're using the same chips, which again, intellectual property is huge.
Yeah.
Not only from the end product, but from the components being used in the end product.
I think you would limit the inventory that you're purchasing to common components, like I believe common capacitors and diodes, and rather than just the major ones that are exclusive.
Okay, yeah, that's a better that's a better answer. I think that's a better solution.
Yeah.
I think we use the 80% rule of common components that are used across multiple platforms. Thank you very much. That was good.
And that's all the time we have for
that was good.
You know what I'm saying? The $7,000 headphones.